A while back, I talked about Heart of Darkness, and how I think both the book and surrounding conversations lean on racism. In that video, I proposed three questions. Didn't this book help end imperialism in the Congo? Doesn't the book unite the people of the world under the idea of one humanity? And isn't the book specifically positive in its representation of Africans? In my first video in this trilogy, I examined that while Conrad may have had a hand in ending Belgian exploitation of the Congo, he was far from alone in that regard, and many other individuals risked or lost their lives directly, while Conrad simply wrote a book. Today, I plan to answer the second question. Isn't Heart of Darkness about how we are all human? And before I begin to answer this question, I would like to credit the great late Professor Chinua Achebe for making many of these arguments both before me and much better than me. Though best known for his novels like Things Fall Apart and No Longer at Ease, Achebe was also a great literary critic. His criticism of Joseph Conrad's racism is linked below, and though I am going to present some ideas I came to by my own, I definitely read and was influenced by his essay, An Image of Africa, Racism in Conrad's Heart of Darkness. When I'm directly referencing an idea of his that I didn't come by naturally, I'll reference it, but I recommend you read it yourself. Now, as for the question. If you are familiar with the novel, you know that Kurtz enters the Congo with an intention of exploiting its natural riches, only to find that the people were not dissimilar to him. And in that regard, you could consider Heart of Darkness to be about uniting humanity. Here's the problem. The horror that Kurtz finds is not that the humans he has been exploiting, torturing, and murdering are as human as he is. The horror is that he is as human as they are. Consider what is posited by the early moments of the novel. Kurtz is believed to be a great gentleman. This is the thesis repeated by the beginning and asked about at the end. This is what Conrad sets out to disprove. Not to show that the natives of the Congo are decent people worth treating with respect, but that European colonialists are indecent people worth treating with fear. Which I almost get. A book being about the potential depravity of humanity isn't necessarily a bad thing. Edgar Allan Poe writes some stories about this. George Orwell, Emily Bronte, Toni Morrison. Lots of writers that I like and respect have acknowledged the depths humans are willing to go to satisfy their desires, but the problem is that Conrad goes beyond that. The framing of the novel wants us to be surprised that Kurtz lowers himself to the exterminator mindset, but it never asks us to recognize that the native Congolese were above it. As Achebe notes, there are two instances in the novel where an African individual speaks, and we are told what they say. The most famous line, we know, is the woman informing us that Kurtz is dead. The only other is a call for cannibalism. The Congolese aren't characters in this novel. They are caricatures. If Heart of Darkness offers a condemnation of King Leopold, it is only in that he lowers himself to violence. Achebe uses one quote in particular to show that this is Conrad's meaning. The earth seemed unearthly. We are accustomed to look upon the shackled form of a conquered monster, but there you could look at a thing monstrous and free. It was unearthly, and the men were... No, they were not inhuman. Well, that was the worst of it. The suspicion of their not being inhuman. It would come slowly to one. They howled and leaped and spun and made horrid faces. But what thrilled you was just the thought of their humanity. Like yours. The thought of your remote kinship with this wild and passionate uproar. Ugly. Yes, it was ugly enough. But if you were man enough, you would admit to yourself that there was in you just the faintest trace of a response to the terrible frankness of that noise, a dim suspicion of there being a meaning in it which you so remote from the night of first ages, could comprehend. End quote. The horror is not that the acts of imperialism are being perpetrated on individuals as human as the presumed white reader. The horror is that the presumed white reader shares a humanity with Africans, and that humanity is ugly. Yes, Heart of Darkness does say that we are all human, but it doesn't see that as unifying or enlightening, but as frightening. It's possible that Heart of Darkness inspired some colonialist Belgians to change their ways, and it's even possible that they began to view the native Congolese as humans like them, but that viewpoint was not explicitly encouraged by the text. Conrad, at least in this novel, seems opposed to the Belgians in the Congo, but not on a humanitarian basis. Rather on the basis that they are not acting like civilized Europeans. Heart of Darkness is nihilistic, which isn't an inherently racist position, but much like Nietzsche before him, and Lovecraft after him, his misanthropy is, if not supporting, at least accepting of anti-blackness. Conrad's literary skill allows his novel to be relevant to now, but the way that he justifies his anti-imperialism is better left in the past. Sometimes the right conclusions are reached via the wrong reasons. While it's better to oppose colonialism than support it, no matter what brought you to that conclusion, let us not appreciate or promote racist rhetoric to illustrate our views, no matter how popular they have been.